on this computer. Awesome. So, I'm Réal Perriard. As you notice, I'm bib number 112. I've done the ski marathon for over 30 years. It's going to be my 34th year this year. I'm kind of excited. I have, a fair amount of experience about doing the Coureur de Bois category, having done it for the last few decades. And I'm a volunteer on the board of directors. I happen to be the president for the last couple of years. Kind of keen to chat about the CSM tonight, and some of you may know me a little bit, and you know that I can always talk about the Canadian Ski Marathon forever. And so this is part of the job that I enjoy, because we just get to talk cross-country skiing. Maybe Ian, say a few words.
Yes, of course. Hello, my name is Ian Waugh. I have been doing the Canadian Ski Marathon for probably 12 or more years now. Last year I just got my permanent gold bib. I haven't had time to memorize what it is yet, so I can't rhyme it off like Réal did. I joined the board in the spring, so just getting involved with all the goings on behind the scenes. I'm officially, my title is the treasurer of the board, so I'm trying to keep an eye on the finances and things like that, and helping out wherever else I can. So.
All right, Michael, I'll turn to you.
Hi, I'm Michael O'Gorman. My relationship with the marathon started over 40 years ago. I did my first marathon on my mum's back as a baby, and did a number of marathons as a child. And I've returned to the marathon about 5 years ago. Last year I attempted my gold and did not succeed. I fell before finishing, and so I hope this year to try again and get my gold. I joined the board this autumn, so I'm the newbie really on the board, and do my best to help where I can.
Thank you, Michael. And just so folks know, Michael is out of Montreal. The three on the top screen, I hope we're all in the same order that we're seeing. But anyway, we're in Ottawa. And Serena, who's going to talk next, is from Chelsea, Quebec. Go ahead, Serena. We can't hear you. We'll give you a moment and we'll go to Chris. Chris, why don't you just, we'll see if she can resolve what she has. But
okay, thanks, Réal. I'm Chris Terron. I am a skier, but I am envious of the other four in this call who have all skied the event so much. I have worked the event for the last, this is year 24, and they've never allowed me to ski it. And this year might be an exception. I get to ski my first, but I ski the rest of the weekends. Been on the board, I believe, 6 years now, and I'm the guy that helps choose the trail, creates the maps, does the chip timing, and a lot of logistics planning.
okay, and I guess I'll just say that Serena Trottier is kind of an avid outdoors person. I know her a little bit, so while she figures out her mic, I'll speak on her behalf. She hasn't.
I'm good.
Oh, you are good. Awesome.
Yeah, it's my headphones.
It would have been more fun if I'd done the introduction, I think, Serena. But go ahead.
Actually, that would have been fun. My name's Serena. I've been on the board for 2 years. Been skiing the marathon since 2008, I think was my first year. I am permanent bib number 420, which I earned year before last. I love this event, and I'm super happy to be part of the board and supporting the continuation of this amazing event.
And one of the reasons that we like to give our bib number is because while we are all skiers doing the ski marathon, we know that we can barely recognize each other, and certainly sometimes don't even remember our names. Other people's name or our own names we don't remember. So if you see us on the trail during the event, 420, 112, and who knows Ian's number is, please don't be shy and say hello. We're always happy to meet skiers on the actual trail. Having said that, I'm about to share my screen. 1 second, I have so many things on my computer going on. I assume this is working well, folks. Thumbs up. So I've got about probably a dozen or 14 slides that I'll talk through the process of what's going to happen on the weekend of the 12th and kind of leading up to it. Again, I think we're well equipped to answer almost any question in the universe about the Canadian Ski Marathon, so don't be shy, engage us through the chat line, ask me or anyone else all the questions you need. Just so you know, a lot of times this is Coureur de Bois, so it's the folks doing bronze, silver, and gold is what the session is about. And if you're a little bit new to the ski marathon, or you're thinking of signing up and you're listening in to see what this is all about, just to be clear, the folks who do the Coureur de Bois category intend to ski 80 kilometers on Saturday and again on Sunday. The event is always divided in 5 sections each day. And the Coureur de Bois kind of challenges himself to ski the entire 5 sections each day. There's some subtle differences between bronze, silver, and gold. They are detailed on our website. I'll just very quickly say that the bronze simply ski the entire event. The silver need to do it with a backpack that weighs at least 5 kilograms. And you cannot sign for the silver until you've completed the bronze. And once you've done the silver, you can also then sign up if you choose. Some folks come back and do bronze or silver year after year. But once you've done your silver, you can sign up for what is called the gold category, which is a little bit different. It's kind of a fairly big challenge because you never know what Canadian winters can throw at you. For the gold category, you have to be more or less self-sufficient. You do have access, of course, to water and food at the checkpoints, but you have to carry a pack with a sleeping bag, some dry clothing, and your food for supper and breakfast the next morning. And you do sleep outside at something that is called Gold Camp. We do expect that probably in January, when the winter kind of gets going, we know that there could be a few more details for the gold folks, especially if they've never skied the gold before, that we will probably do a gold specific webinar session sometime in January. So if you need more details, than what you're getting today, fear not, we'll have another session in January. And I think you can also go on our YouTube channels and watch some of the previous sessions. So having said that, I will kind of dive in. Just give you a little bit of context. I think I'll just wait 1 second. I'll go to the topics. So I'm going to give you context first, talk a little bit about the 2024 landscape. What's happened in the last couple of years that's made us change the offering a little bit. If you've already seen the website and maybe you've already registered, you've kind of seen that there's a few changes. A lot of the changes are more impactful for the touring categories than the Coureur de Bois category. But you may be on this call and kind of debating whether to do touring or Coureur de Bois, or you may have friends who want to do touring. We can certainly answer a few questions about touring as well. But we did have separate webinars, which again are available on the YouTube channel. So I will go into the list of topics right away. So the 2024 landscape, you probably are aware that the event has kind of survived a couple of years of COVID. We'd had virtual events in 2021 and 2022. The 2020 event happened just kind of before the pandemic really blew up, and we were fortunate to be able to host the 2020 event in kind of a naive bliss. 2023 was our first year returning to Montebello. We had a route that traveled from I'm drawing a blank. We went from north to the west and to explore back the route towards Buckingham that we hadn't used in a few years. Preparing the trail, what makes the Canadian Ski Marathon unique, it is a unique trail that only gets used on the weekend of the event. But that is a big challenge from an operations and logistics perspective. And kind of coming back from the post-COVID world, 2023 was very challenging. The expenses, as you know, if you eat in restaurants or if you go to, anytime you're spending money nowadays, everything's a bit more expensive. Putting on the ski marathon last year was a bit more expensive for skiers and for us. And we know that we need to adapt the event. If you were at the AGM last year, we kind of presented, some of the financial details that the marathon, it's a nonprofit organization. We lost a fair amount of money last year, and it kind of hindered us as we were starting the event this year. And so it's kind of important context because, you know, you're going to see that the event is a little bit different than other years. We're not starting in Le Chute, or we're not starting in Mont Tremblant. We'll be skiing quite heavily, not completely, but quite heavily in the Canuck Nature Reserve. And part of that is our desire, quite frankly, our desire to maintain the longevity of the event and making sure that we have a couple of good financial years over the next, you know, forever, quite frankly, but over the next couple of years, make sure that we can have the event. So the event is adapting as a reflection of what's happening in the outside world. Just a little bit about our team. It is a very volunteer-based organization. I want folks to kind of realize that there's people on this call that are, you know, giving their time generously because they love this event, and we try to have the event kind of survive, you know, through everything. There is, you know, a lot of urban sprawls that's happening. It's making the preparation of the trail more difficult. So even though it feels like the event is changing, we're people that understand the event quite well, and we understand the history, and we're trying to protect, within reason, kind of the legacy of the event. We have Marianne at the office and JF Picard. JF Picard is a name that you may not be very familiar with. He's been with the event for over 10 years. He has dealt with logistics in the background, and he's kind of taking a step forward this year to help us put the event on. And so we're very thankful to have JF taking on a leadership role. And Mary Ann, if you've sent us office or called, sent us emails or phoned the office, it's Mary Ann who's been helping you out. She's been with us for approximately 3 years, and she understands the event very well, and she's very, very friendly and very helpful to skiers. So we're very fortunate to have her on board. And of course, we have the 200 volunteers. It's over 200 volunteers. It's probably closer to 300 on the weekend itself that put the event on. And out of that, I want to give a special shout out. There's about 25 folks who are the volunteer leads. And, you know, to most skiers, they're kind of unknown folks, but they're people that kind of step up, and they all lead different volunteer groups within, you know, within the organization, and they get involved. You know, already they started to get involved to help us plan the event with the volunteer base that we have. And they put kind of the volunteer teams together for the weekend. So that's a little bit about who we are. And there's like, if you've been to an AGM or you've been on our website, we're a volunteer board of about 9 people. And this year, because we're coming back from COVID, we're playing a bit more of an active role. And you may also know that we had a you know, fabulous gentleman, Frederick Menard, who was the event director for the last 10 years. He had a huge impact on the event. And last year, he kind of decided to make a life change. He is helping us a little bit in the background, but he's sorely missed, of course. And kind of as a result of that, the board is taking a more active role in this year's planning. So let's get into the details of what's happening in 2024 with the actual event. We very obviously will have an in-situ event that will be more centered in Montebello than recently. So like I've just indicated, no trails in Le Chute or in Mont Tremblant. Everything is centered around Montebello. This will make it a lot easier, I think, for folks, both Coureur des Bois and tours, to come to the event and to plan the event a little bit more easily for themselves, and keep the costs down for families who want to come with, you know, with children. And even for the Coureur des Bois, it's a bit easier, you know, to not stay at a dome, for example. We have skiers from all of Canada, from the US, but we know we have a lot of a core population that's between Ottawa and Montreal. And they can kind of come to the event now with maybe without staying at a dorm if they choose to, and save a little bit of money. As a Coureur des Bois, though, the usual distances will be there. You're going to ski 5 sections, approximately 80 kilometers each day. We do have the Canadian Ski Challenge that we started, I think, a year ago. That is more kind of a motivation tool for folks to be involved who can't come to the event. It's relatively inexpensive. It's free for kids under a certain age. And the idea there is, if you're a Coureur des Bois or a tour for that matter, and you want to ski, you know, get your family motivated to ski together through the whole winter. It's an event that lasts from January 1st till about the third week of March. And the more you ski through the winter, you know, you kind of graduate up getting awards that are called bronze, silver, and gold, a little bit patterned after the Canadian Ski Marathon. The details on our website. Registration for that will probably be open, I expect, just before Christmas. So the 2024 in situ event, again, it's going to be 160 kilometers. It's still at the Coureur. The Coureur des Bois, not too many changes for the Coureur des Bois. The tours, however, you will maybe be impacted in how you see them on the course. As you know, if we have a year with, you know, with 1,400 skiers, it's roughly half and half each year. It's about 700 Coureur des Bois and 700 tours. Of course, we haven't seen 1,400 skiers in the last couple of years, and we would dearly love to see 1,400 skiers this year. But the tours will not have a shuttle bus system that will take them around at whatever section they want to start. They have to decide how many sections they're going to ski during the registration process. And I mention this here because as a Coureur des Bois, you always see tour on the course. And I think it's one of the beauties of the event that, you know, we try not to only cater to, you know, the elite strong athlete. It's kind of an event that's intended to offer a challenge that is accessible to everybody. Everyone could kind of define their challenge. And we love having, you know, kids that are 5 years old that are excited to ski 1 or 2 sections with their parents that are skiing at the same time as someone is doing their goal with a great big backpack, and they're on the course together. And it's one of the things that makes the event special. So this year, you know, you will continue to see tours probably quite spread out through the entire 80 kilometers each day. And one of the things that we've done for the tours is the less they ski, the less they pay. So it makes it more attractive. If you have family members that want to ski with you on the weekend and they want to do, you know, the taster, which is only 1 section, or the half marathon, it's a bit easier to do that this year because the fees are less for people that ski less. So it's not a flat fee for the tours. So some details about the trail now, which is what people really want to hear about. So I have my next slides focus on Saturday and Sunday, and this kind of shows you the whole weekend as a whole. The red trace is the Saturday trail, which is just under 80 kilometers, and the green trail is the Sunday trail, which is just over 80. And as always, when we prepare, you know, a trail this long, there are micro changes that can happen until the, you know, the day before the event. So take these distances, you know, they're our best kind of, they're not our best guess because we have a very precise trail, but we do know that things can change, you know, until the last moment. But we're kind of really committed to having approximately, you know, 80 kilometers each day. We will be starting just outside of the Canuck, around here where it says golf. This is a private golf club, actually kind of managed and partly owned, I think, by the groomer who grooms our trail, Denis Marcotte, and we will be starting at his golf course on Saturday morning. So that would be kind of cool. There's obviously a big reliance on the Canuck, you know, the Canuck Reserve. We're not entirely inside the area, but we're quite a bit inside the area. I will say that when we plan the event, you know, we normally have to negotiate with at least 200 landowners when we do the 160 kilometer point to point. That's well over 200. And that is a big challenge for us every year when we try to put the event together. By doing this trail, we would kind of reduce risk that there could be issues with, you know, landowner A or landowner B, but there's still, you know, in excess of 30 landowners for us to interact with. If you skied last year, you know, we do know that skiers, I mean, I'm a skier myself, you know, when we have to ski on the side of the road, it is not fun, and it's not something we like to do. Because of the nature of the trails we've selected, We've done quite a good job of avoiding roadside skiing. I'd like to say that we think there won't be any. We'll have to see what happens on the weekend of the event, but we've managed to plan something where we're quite confident that we'll avoid roadside skiing. As usual, there are 5 section days, and even though we are inside a contained network, we've done a really good job of not repeating sections. There's a few approximately 40% of trails that we will see again, but we're seeing them in opposite direction the next day. So it does change the scenery and change the feel quite a bit. Each section has a relatively good length of, anywhere from 10 to 21 kilometers. There isn't like a 30-kilometer section thrown in there anywhere. So everything is quite manageable as a Coureur de Bois. Even if you're doing your bronze, and you're not carrying a lot with you, you'll be able to ski easily from checkpoint to checkpoint. And you see these blue bubbles, they're water and safety points. So for some of the longer sections, we have like a halfway. It's not an aid station by any means, but it's kind of access to water from a volunteer. Both Saturday and Sunday will finish in Montebello. Of course, the Gold Camp folks, finish in Gold Camp, not in the town of Montebello. But the other tours, Bronze and Silver, will finish on Montebello on Saturday, and Sunday morning they will start again in Montebello, and they will finish in Montebello. And now I'll just describe each day a bit more carefully. So in terms of the Saturday, you'll be staying at a dorm, most likely. If you're a local person, you might stay at home and drive from Montreal or from Ottawa. But you'll get yourself to the Papineauville High School, and there will be a shuttle. So if you're at a dorm, all dorms will have a shuttle that will take you to the start line. And if you're not staying at a dorm and you're driving in early Saturday morning, as you've done in past years, you drive yourself to the Papineau High School in advance of the bus schedule that we publish in the skier guide, and you hop on a shuttle, and that's all included in your fees. And the shuttle will take you to the Saturday start line. So, no changes there. If you're a gold skier and you've decided to stay at the dorm, historically the start line, as an example, would be in remote Lachute or in Mont Tremblant. Because the golds have a kind of the extra challenge of skiing with a pack and sleeping outside, we try to give them a bit more sleep by having a dorm that is typically closer to the start line. So we always had a gold dorm in Lachute, for example. The gold dorm will not be in Papineauville. This year we fully expect to have a gold dorm very, very, very close, as a matter of fact, at the start line. I have TBC there because it's not finalized. We need to confirm it. But the plan is to have quite a few spots available for a gold dorm right at the start line. So it would be at the Golf Club L'Héritage. It's a facility that can, house up to 150 golds. We don't typically get 150 gold folks at Gold Dorm, but I myself highly recommend it. I think it's a little easier to manage your event. And unlike other years, we also expect to have parking at the Gold Dorm. So typically that wasn't possible, but we expect to be able to park our cars. So if you're a gold skier and you've picked the Gold Dorm during registration, you'll be able to drive there, leave your car there, and we will shuttle you to your car on the Sunday. In terms of looking at
interrupt Riyadh
Yes.
with one little caution there. Last year we bent the rules and we allowed some non-gold skiers to stay at Gold Dorm, but that will not be possible this year. Gold Dorm and parking at Gold Dorm is restricted to gold skiers. In fact, parking is restricted to those who stay at Gold Dorm.
Thank you for that detail. Actually, that was important. I appreciate that. Yeah, so sadly, if you're a bronze and a silver, and in the past it has happened that people have snuck into the Gold Dorm, and sometimes we've even allowed it, I think, a year or two. Because of space, this is not something that we'll be able to entertain, and so the Gold Dorm, will be for the gold skiers. And as a matter of fact, there's typically you know, there's typically over 200 gold skiers that sign up. There never is 200 people that sign up for the dorm. And if there were 200 people this year, we would probably have to house, you know, a certain subset of them in Papineauville or figure something out, because we can't accept 200 skiers at Gold Dorm. So the section lengths are quite good. You know, the first one is a little bit on the long side, but I kind of prefer that to some other years when we had a really short first section. We started with 20 kilometers. We head north to Taunton, and then ski 16 kilometers to Esdale, where we exit the Canuck Reserve. And just so you folks know, you maybe remember skiing to Boileau in other events. Boileau is just kind of north of the map. And then we kind of re-enter and head straight south to Sandpit, which these are checkpoints that we've used in the past. You will recognize them. And then we continue south, we go to Sport Clay, and then we continue more south all the way to Montebello. The cutoff is, as usual, is 3:30. So you have to finish the first 4 sections. So if you haven't done Coureur de Bois, just be aware that you get a start time of 6 o'clock for the bronze, 10 to 6 for the silver, and 20 to 6 for the gold. So we have this kind of, you know, the gold guys get to go first, and then the silver, and then the bronze, which of course carry less weight with them. All these skiers have to finish the first 4 sections by 3:30, which means you have to exit the second last checkpoint, the Sport Clay checkpoint, before 3:30 to be allowed to continue. And we have to do that to kind of manage the flow of skiers from a safety perspective, manage the load on the volunteers that are there all day, and make sure skiers aren't skiing, you know, in the dark after being on the trail for 16 hours kind of thing. Gold skiers will be going to a gold camp, which is not the gold camp you've seen for the last about 8 years. I forget exactly how many years. If you recall, we were at a gold camp that as you skied towards Montebello, you would kind of veer right and ski a few hundred meters into, I think at one time it was called the racetrack. Is that right, Chris? Because it kind of looks like a racetrack. I think it's a bit more, pleasant than the last gold camp we've had. It'll be a bit more, you know, a bit less civilized. There won't be any buildings or lights in the way. It'll be kind of a bit more in the bush. It's a little bit exposed, but at least you're not with buildings and with lights. So I think it's a bit of a better environment for the gold folks.
And one little detail, some will consider it good, some maybe not, is that it is not accessible by cars and visitors. So it will be more of a true, you're in the woods on your own.
Thank you. And I'm a big proponent of that, folks. So that's good news. Yeah, so no one bringing you pizza at Gold Camp. You have to be self-sufficient and carry all the stuff that you need at Gold. On the Sunday, it's kind of the same parking as the Saturday. So again, if you're a Coureur de Bois and you live within what you feel is a driving distance, you can go back home on the Saturday night, and on the Sunday morning you can get up early and arrive at the high school, at the Papineauville High School, and grab the shuttle to the start line there. And if you're a bronze or silver that's staying at a dorm, then the dorm, you'll get up, you'll have breakfast. Just to be clear, if you've signed up for a dorm, it does include the supper on Saturday night and the breakfast on Sunday morning. So you have your meals there, and then you get on a shuttle bus. It's typically probably before 5 o'clock, around that time, and it takes you to the start line in Montebello. So Papineauville to Montebello is a short drive, right? It's not like you're on a shuttle bus for like an hour. And you have the same start times as the Saturday. The same kind of cutoff applies. And on the Sunday, you're not exiting the Canuck Reserve until the end of the day. So you're skiing, you're skiing to the Canuck Reserve. It's going to take you 16 kilometers to, well, it's going to take you less than 16 kilometers to get to the boundary. But the first checkpoint is 16 kilometers at Sport Clay. And now you're skiing the trail in reverse. You go to Sand Pit as your next checkpoint. You head north, you have that water point. Yes, and you do what is called the Lucky Loop, and you're coming back south. And now the important feature, after I've said that there's no roadside skiing, this is not really considered roadside skiing, but you do have to walk yourself to the checkpoint. So the Taunton checkpoint, unless there's if there's fabulous snow conditions, and there's always skiers that try to ski what is meant to be walked. And so there may be, on the side of the road, there may be something that is skiable. But the intent is that you might have to walk approximately 700 meters to get yourself to Taunton. There won't be a groomed, prepared trail by our groomer for the last 700 meters. Again, the bronze and silver start and finish in Montebello. I mentioned that earlier. And there will be at the finish line a shuttle to Papineauville High School. So whatever category you are, you're skiing all day. You're finishing, somewhere between 2 and 6 in the 6 in the early evening. You get yourself to Montebello. There will be probably there's always a little bit of food. There's a bit of a fun finish. There's probably somebody playing some music, some festivities. Depending how tired you are, you quickly get yourself on a shuttle bus and you go to the Papineauville High School. If you've bought a meal ticket, you'll have access to a meal like cafeteria food, kind of the finish line banquet. That is it's not a very formal affair, but there is food at the Papineauville High School. There will be access to showers, and then the usual awards that you've picked up if you've done your bronze or silver, your gold bar, whatever it might be. You want to pick up your award, you do that as usual, except you'll be doing it at the Papineau High School instead of Buckingham or Lachute. And that's how the Sunday will unfold. And now I'm going to give you some general commentary on the trail and give you a bit of data on what the trail looks like and what the level of challenge is. It is, they are kind of established ski trail. So I think the technical level of challenge is, I would describe it as quite reasonable. Like I said earlier, we've did our best to eliminate roadside skiing. If everything goes according to plan, fingers crossed, you should see next to no roadside skiing. And you can personally blame me if you do, I guess. You'll probably find that this route on Saturday and Sunday doesn't have the huge climbs that you might be accustomed to seeing. There's nothing that looks like the old bobsled run that we haven't seen that in a couple of years. But there are a lot of small climbs. So, when you're training, make sure you're not just training on flat surfaces and that you're accustomed to climbing, especially, towards the end of long days of skiing. Make sure you're encountering some climbing in your training. And I'll have some data in a few moments. And just again, to clarify, tours are not randomly starting everywhere, but they're starting at each checkpoint at different times of the day. So depending if you're a fast or a slow Coureur de Bois, you will see either more or less tours on the course. We go through kind of painful, detailed planning to make sure we have the least amount of congestion possible. We have a lot of historical data on the fast and slow tours and the fast and slow Coureur de Bois and everything in between. And so we kind of understand how the 1,200 to 1,400 skiers move through the course. And so when we plan bus schedules and we plan cutoffs for checkpoints, we kind of I want to say we have a good handle on that, and so it'll work out quite well. So now, just a little bit of data. The first 3 rows are the classic 80-kilometer trails you've seen for the last 10 years if you've done the event before. Don't necessarily need to go through the details of the 3 first brown rows, but what you'll notice is, you know, the elevation, the total elevation gain was typically a little bit over 12, you know, a little over 1,000 meters. The Eastern Trail that we did last year, sorry, that's not the Eastern Trail. It's the, yes, it is the Eastern Trail, but not the one we did last year. That was the Western Trail. Sorry about that. The one that had the bobsled run that we knew was really difficult, and that's the trail between Lachute and Montebello in the famous Section 3. That had a climb that was 280 meters. I've intentionally put it in red right here. And so that was obviously a very big climb. Anything that's 100 meters is quite reasonable in my opinion. And so this year, you'll notice that on the Saturday, there's almost 2,000 meters of climbing, and there's just over 2,000 meters of climbing on Sunday. So that's a little bit more than what we've seen in the past. Having said that, on the Saturday, there are only 2 climbs of 100 meters. This is approximate, right? And there are many small hills. The last 2 sections I would classify as, you know, easy to moderate. Typically on the Saturday and Sunday, always as a Coureur de Bois, you tend to go, you know, mostly downhill on the last section of the day as you're getting yourself back to, you know, to Montebello. So, you know, pretty reasonable Saturday. Just to take note, though, there is a tough climb right at the start. So just remember on the Saturday, if you start out and there's like this huge climb, it's not like that the whole day. It's just the first 5K has a pretty big climb. Then it kind of becomes more moderate and more like little ups and downs. On Sunday, I would say maybe a little bit more challenging on Sunday. There are 3 climbs that are 150 meters. Again, nothing that compares to the 280. And again, once you've gone through the first 3 sections, you have kind of relatively, I mean, I know it's a long day, it's 80 kilometers, you're tired after 65 kilometers of skiing, but the last 2 sections I think are more, if you're an experienced skier, you know, they'll be manageable. I think it's going to be a pretty nice course. I look forward to skiing it. I don't think you're on mute, Chris. Just I knew you would say something, so I looked at you.
Very fantastic. Interject with a Zoom issue. Rael mentioned at the beginning, you're welcome to use the chat room to chat amongst yourselves and ask questions as well as the Q&A. I just discovered by accident that the chat room had been closed, so I have just opened it up to everyone. So continue to use either the chat or the Q&A if you have questions.
Sorry, I hope that wasn't my doing, but apologize about that little technical hiccup. So yes, by all means, type away and ask questions. No other comments on the trail, Chris, that I just made? Again, well, I think I'll cover that in the next couple of slides. So if you're a first timer and you've never done 80 kilometers a day before, and it's the first time you're signing up for bronze, just remember it is a long day, but it is supposed to be fun. The Canadian Ski Marathon is, I mean, I keep going back every year. It is because it is a fun event. The atmosphere and the attitudes are pretty positive. No one is going to yell track because we refuse to time the event, so it is not a race. It's kind of a personal challenge that everyone can kind of take on. And you know, even if they're tours, they're challenging themselves to ski 2 or 3 sections, and that's fabulous. And they, maybe you know a little bit about the permanent bib that the Golds get, and we have a permanent bib for the tour as well. Who keep coming back year after year. When they've skied 50 sections, which typically takes them, 8 to 12 years, they get a permanent bib, just like the Coureur de Bois get a permanent bib when they've skied the Gold 5 times. There's checkpoints with food and drink. It's typically, 2 to 3 hours between a checkpoint. I would make sure you carry emergency carbs as well if you're a first timer. Understand how much fluids you need and how much electrolytes you need, and don't be shy, especially sometimes when you're doing your bronze. It's meant to be a bit of an easier category because you're not carrying weight at all, but at the same time maybe you have less ability to carry food and water with you. And so there's nothing wrong with doing your bronze with a small pack and making sure you have the ability to carry some, a dry hat, some dry gloves. And of course, you have to assess what the conditions will be like on that weekend. We do offer waxing at all 8 stations, which is a really nice thing. We have different businesses from Montreal and Ottawa who volunteer their time and have a waxing station set up at each checkpoint. You have to be a bit careful to make sure you're not spending too much time at checkpoints. And if you're waiting for your skis to be ready and it's making you wait, 10 to 15, instead of 10 or 15 minutes, you're spending 25 minutes at a checkpoint because you're waiting for waxing to be done. It's maybe not the greatest thing. So just, be prepared to wax your own skis, have your equipment in line. And of course, we're in 2024 and the advancement with skin skis, they're not the waxless skis of old. So by all means, you can use skin skis. There are quite a few people now that use skin skis during the event. If you're a purist and you're a racer, sure, they're maybe not quite as fast, but for most people, it's not noticeable. And there's also the fact that, you never stop to wax your skis. And usually that's enough to make quite a bit of difference, right? So skin skis, by all means, work quite well during the marathon. And they do have the advantage of, especially when it's, +2 to -5, and it gets a bit trickier with waxing. The skin skis can be quite effective. Again, I'll just say it's a long couple of days. Make sure you have fun. The trail is typically fabulous. The quality of the groomer and the grooming equipment. In the old days, they would talk about, bring your bad skis for the ski marathon, and it's a kind of a touring adventure. But now the quality of the grooming and of the trail, it's quite nice skiing. So it's a beautiful trail. I have this little chart at the bottom just to show you, again, if you're a first timer, how to manage your time at checkpoints is important. One of the big reasons people don't finish and they don't make the cutoff, it's often, they're good enough skiers and they could have skied fast enough. They're well prepared, but maybe they don't quite know how to manage their time over a day that's, that long. If you're spending 10 minutes at a checkpoint, this is not super precise data because I think it's a little bit dated. It comes from one of my charts. It's not according to the kilometers that are current, but it is darn close enough. If you're spending, 10 minutes at checkpoint, you can ski 8.5 kilometers an hour as a bronze, which most people are able to average that kind of speed. If you're taking 25 minutes at checkpoints, which is easy to do if, you start talking with your friends, it's a lot easier to stand still and eat food than to get on your skis again at the end of the day. Suddenly you have to ski near 10 kilometers an hour as an average speed. And that's not so easy. Yes, there are many high-end skiers that can do this easily. But if you're a first-time skier at the ski marathon, the course is always a bit more challenging than you might expect. And averaging 10 kilometers an hour is a bit of a feat. So just be careful at how much time you spend at checkpoints is what I'm saying.
I can give you Rial the exact times for this year, based on a 15-minute stop at each checkpoint. On Saturday, you must maintain a speed of 7.2 kilometers an hour to get past the cutoff at Sporting Clay. And on Sunday, you can relax. It's only 6.9 kilometers per hour.
Chris, I'm embarrassed to say I understand what the issue is. You're quoting these speeds, and I'm like, what's going on? I prepared these tables before the cutoff got moved to 3:30.
Yeah, and the difference between the 2 days is not the length of the course; it's where the last checkpoint is.
Yeah, so I'll just to clarify, folks, the cutoff is after 4 sections, right? Not after 5 sections. So it's when you've skied 4 out of the 5 sections. So depending, how many kilometers that checkpoint is at is what impacts your speed. And I was referring to, the speeds that Chris was quoting were a bit slower than mine. It's because a few years ago we moved the checkpoint back to 3:30, and I just realized now that I had prepared this before the checkpoint was moved to 3:30. The cutoff was moved to 3:30. So it is a bit more conservative. My estimates are a bit more pessimistic than they need to be. I'll have to fix that. So training, that's an important slide, because I will tell you, if you've never been to one of my webinars before, a year or two ago, I think I was a little bit sick, and I had a typo here, and I told people they had to ski for 300 hours. And so, you know, it does depend on the athlete. The expectation is that you would spend 30 to 60 quality hours on your skis. You know, can you do this with only 250 or less kilometers of training? Absolutely, you can, if you're a decent skier and you're already somebody who runs marathons or, you know, are accomplished in other endurance events. Most people start to feel more comfortable when they get, you know, well over 400, more 500 to 600 kilometers is what people want to do, which, you know, does mean you got to get on your skis, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. And you have to be really consistent through the whole winter and kind of keep at it and use every opportunity to go skiing. Eventually, you want to get yourself to a point where in January you are doing back-to-back, so 2 consecutive days, where you reach maybe 80 kilometers over a weekend. I think that would be like a minimum again. Some people go as far as 100+ kilometers on a weekend. I do think that's a little bit much, but again, it depends on what your comfort level is. But as a minimum, I would say try to do a total of 80 kilometers, whether that's 40 and 40 or 35 and 45. Just make sure you total 80 kilometers in a weekend. Don't forget those hills that I talked about, a lot of small hills. So you can't just be skiing, you know, it's not that it's easy, but you can ski 40 kilometers at 10 kilometers an hour on a flat trail. It's very different from having challenging up and down. What surprises people at the ski marathon, it's not that the skiing is like super difficult, but I'll describe it as it's kind of relentless. There's ups and downs that just keep happening and keep coming at you. And so during your training, you know, don't always stay on the green trails because it's easier to accumulate the kilometers. Do challenge yourself to use trails that are a little bit adventurous. Especially if you're doing back-to-back long outings, make sure the second day when you're tired and your legs aren't as, you know, as zippy as they are the first day, take that second day to visit some adventurous trails. There's always a lot of debate about whether to ski with a pack or not, whether you know, this tends to apply to silver and especially to the gold category. You don't need every outing to be with a pack. There is this idea that skiing with a backpack does affect technique and doesn't help it. It makes it worse. Having said that, you want to make sure that you can ski a long time, you know, with a big backpack. The gold packs are not tiny, and they do throw your weight around. They throw your balance off, and you should make sure you're comfortable, you know, having a long day with a pack. So for sure, you do need to ski with a backpack. You just don't need every single outing. You know, you could do maybe some midweek skiing where you're focusing on speed a little bit on your shorter days and you're not bothering with a pack, and that's totally fine. So a few gold specific things people are always interested. Again, especially if you've never done the gold before, make sure you have those long outings with a pack. You know, packs at Gold Camp vary from you know, from 7 kilos to probably 12 kilos. If you're a beginner, the debate that you will have is, you know, a lighter pack is obviously better for skiing, but the less you have in your pack, the less resilient you are to changes on the weekend. And, you know, a few years ago, we had a Sunday where the temperatures dipped to -35, -37, even in the morning. And some folks didn't have enough of the proper clothing for the Sunday. And so there was quite a few DNFs that year, people that didn't finish the gold because they didn't, you know, they had a light pack, but they didn't have enough stuff with them. So it is kind of a balance. You know, the more experience you have, kind of cheating in a way that you have more experience, but you can get away with having less because you kind of know how to deal with those hardships. But it is a weekend that, you know, it can be +2 in rain, and it could be, you know, -35. And so you want to be prepared for all that. And so in terms of that, you know, depending what the weather might be like, because it, you know, it's beautiful if it's -10 or -15, but it can be -30, and it can be, you know, a bit drizzly and -1. So kind of understand what you're going to do at goal camp. Have the conversation with yourself and with your friends. You know, there's lots of stuff on the internet, and there's also us as a resource. If you don't know any goals in your kind of circle of friends, by all means get in touch with us. We're accustomed to spending time with new gold skiers who have, you know, maybe they're great athletes, have, you know, good strong background in cross country skiing, but the winter camping aspect is more intimidating. And so sometimes they get in touch with us, and we have approximately 30 to 40 ambassadors that are quite experienced, and we're always able to find skiers that we pair up a new skier with, and then sometimes through the winter they have a bit of a dialogue. You do want to make sure you have dry clothes when you arrive at goal camp. You know, the first 2 things you want to do is probably have some easy warm food and get into dry clothes, depending on the temperatures and how you feel. Usually dry clothes is the first thing you do. You know, if you're having a bit of trouble, then having a snack first might be more important. If it's your first goal camp, it can be a bit daunting. You arrive, there's a picture there on the right. It's a kind of a sea of bales of hay and fires. There's probably, you know, 30 fires at goal camp, and there's typically, you know, 6 to 10 people per fire. There's not many that have 10, but there's, you know, 6 to 8 people at each fire. If you don't know anyone, please, you know, don't hesitate. Go to any fire where you see, you know, it's not overly crowded, and people are always quite receptive. When it's a first-time gold skier, the other gold folks are usually quite excited to see some new fresh blood in the mix, and are like very, very helpful. So you just kind of walk up to you know, any fire and say, hey, you know, my name is so and so, it's my first gold, and I'm going to stay with you guys, and people are happy to take you in. I always tell people to have a snack or inside their sleeping bag at night. Most people start to get cold, you know, around 1 or 2 in the morning. You're sleeping, you know, you're not staying up late at goal camp. Most people are in the bag by 7:30. I'm in a sleeping bag way before 7:30. You're getting up at, you know, approximately 4 a.m. for a departure that is at 5:40. A lot of what you do at goal camp is centered around eating and drying your clothing. Be careful with your synthetic wear not to melt them and burn them. People like to make fun of me with all my experience. I'll tell you that twice. You see, Chris has a big smile on his face. I have twice melted boots at goal camp. It's been near catastrophic, shall we say. So pay attention to your gear. You know, don't leave it unattended and too close to the fire. But a lot of what you're doing that evening is basically drying your clothing and taking care of your hydration and your food intake. Bring food that is easy to eat, that you're confident is not going to cause you any problem. Most people bring, you know, freeze-dried foods, and instant oatmeal for the next day is very popular. But again, if you need advice, get in touch with us. And if you have a kind of a snack for the middle of the night when you're invariably you start getting cold at 1 or 2 in the morning, and it's usually your furnace is kind of running low on fuel, and having half of an energy bar will go a long way to kind of warming you up again. We're almost done, guys. It's my last slide. No detailed discussions on this. I'll just say that we published a skier guide. It's quite a good skier guide. A lot of questions can be answered by reading the skier guide. You know, I think we know that every year we have skiers that probably don't read it and don't pay attention to the details. It's not a really long document. You know, we're sometimes guilty of not getting it out as early as we could. Our website does have access to an older skier guide. So if you want to, if you've never done Coureur de Bois before and you want to have a flavor of things, by all means, go read an older skier guide. But we've actually just finished writing it. We're now kind of reviewing it, making micro changes to it and translating it to publish on our website. It basically takes you, the skier guide takes you from Friday to Sunday in a way. That's the way to look at it. It kind of tells you, where you have to be, what you have to do. It's got the dormitory information, the addresses, where the parking lots are all located. It tells you where you're going to be picking up your skier kit, which is, of course, something you've ticked off during the registration process. It tells you what's going to happen when you start your ski marathon. And it's going to tell you a little bit about the checkpoints and what goes on at checkpoints. We have safety trips for the trail. We have kind of renewed trail information. A lot of that is on our website right now. Yeah, the trail information, a lot of it is on our website right now. So by all means, go to the website and read the trail description and look at the maps. Then it'll tell you how you can finish your day, what shuttle bus you're going to get on to get yourself back to your car. If you're a gold skier, for example, who stayed at a dorm, you'll have a shuttle that is going to take you to that gold dorm that we described earlier, because your car will be there. On cue, I've been talking for about an hour, and that was my last slide. Never forget info@skimarathon.ca. That goes to Marianne. She can answer most questions, and if she can't answer a question, she directs it to one of us, and she knows the team quite well. And thank you for listening to us and spending an hour with us. And I hope to see you on the trail. I'll stop sharing the document.
Very surprisingly, Rial, there are no questions in the Q&A or the chat. There was one that was answered directly. You've explained it so well, they have no questions.
I will, for all you folks that are out there listening, I will tell you that is a little bit unusual. I've done a few of these. Hopefully that's good news. Someone says, awesome. Thank you, Anne Lloyd. Wow. I will remind you, I have to do this as like the public service announcement. Bring your friends. If you haven't signed up, we need folks to sign up. I will tell you that we are less than 600 skiers signed up right now, which is not abnormal. You've probably seen we call them e-blasts, but the announcements that we send they go to about 5,000 or 6,000 skiers. As you probably know, the event has often had up to 1,400 skiers and more. Most years, 14 would be kind of a low number. Last year, there were less than 1,100 skiers that came back to the event. We don't fully understand why, to be very honest. Some of that is post-pandemic, people losing the habit, the event being virtual for a couple of years. But we really need, we want this event to continue, and honestly, it needs skiers to be able to continue. So, tell your friends about it. It is the greatest cross-country ski event in North America. I've done it, I probably have a biased opinion. I've done it for the last 34 years, but we want to see you on the trail. Any final words from my folks?
There is now a question in the Q&A. How often to snack and drink between checkpoints, and what foods are best with a full day in the cold? Do you want to answer that one live?
I will say that when two checkpoints are, 10 to 14 kilometers apart, especially early in the day, you probably don't need to eat. And of course, if you do need to eat, you should eat, but you probably don't. You have to be careful with stopping too often. And when you're stopping, you're not moving, and you have as you ski through the day, you have a certain average speed. And the average speed is the accumulation of your movements throughout the whole day. And when you stand still, I always say it kills your average speed, and it's you have to ski like a little bit faster to overcome that. Now, having said that, if you're eating along the trail, and it's helping you be more diligent at checkpoints and spend less time at checkpoints, then it can be a good thing. And so when sections are 16 to 22 kilometers, you should probably stop once, halfway between the checkpoints. The food can be a little bit personal. You know, the usual array of store-bought power bars, or it's called Gorp. Gorp is it's good old raisins and peanuts. So if you go to the grocery store and you go to the bulk food section, you can prepare Ziploc bags of, you know, raisins, chocolates, and Smarties, and a variety of things. It's not, you know, you're not trying to eat super healthy, but I'm not saying that you shouldn't be eating healthy, but you do want to eat like carbs to help kind of fuel the engine of which is you skiing through the course. But you know, you only need to eat like a handful. Like, you don't need to like gorge yourself. You just need to eat a little bit along the way. And I have this rule of thumb: for every calorie that you ingest, you want to drink 1 milliliter of water. So, you know, if you're ingesting 200 calories at a snack, you would like to have 200 milliliters of fluid with you. Just be careful if it's a super cold day. There's a trick about, you know, having your water bottle upside down. Have a water container that you know you've experienced using on the trail when you've done your training, that you know how to cope with getting your water bottle open and accessible when it's really cold outside. I always grab the hottest liquid I can at a checkpoint in my water bottle, and I don't wait. I don't wait too long before I use it, because then I can access it easily. It's still not frozen. And, you know, if you're going to ski, let's say 2 hours, it's better to drink at 40 minutes than to wait an hour 10, and at an hour 10, your water is cold and your water bottle is frozen, a bit more difficult to access. And also you're taking in cold liquids, which, you know, depending on the person, might not be the greatest thing. It might be better to have a hot drink a little earlier than a cold drink a little later. I don't know if you guys have any different perspective. Like, I know we're all different skiers. And
my general rule of thumb is to feed and fuel every 40 minutes. So ensuring that within a 40-minute range,
Yeah.
I'm drinking and eating.
And
And
so
very trail specific to this year, the event starts on Saturday morning with a section of 20 kilometers with no water points along the way. So you definitely want to start the morning with stuff. After that, there are, for the rest of the weekend, there are 2 sections in the 20-kilometer range, but they have a water point halfway, and the other sections are shorter.
I will add, as a you know, as an old skier who, like, I finish this event most years, and I try to make like everything in my favor so that nothing bad ever happens to me. I never I appreciate those water points, but I don't rely on them. I assume that something is going to go wrong and that the water will have all frozen, or someone else, Michael, was there first and he drank all the water before I got there. So I always assume that there's no water at those checkpoints. I see them as a nice to have. And so what I do on my bib, when you look down at your bib, you see the 10 sections. I have like my time budget, and I have the time at which I want to be at each of these checkpoints written on my bib. And I always know which sections are more than 18 kilometers. And anything that's more than 18 kilometers, I would fill my water bottle, you know, with like 600 milliliters to have at the halfway point. If it was 12 kilometers or less, I personally would go without, but it is like, you have to understand your body and make sure you don't bonk. And if Michael, you know, needs to eat 40 minutes, that's the right thing to do, that he eats every 40 minutes to manage himself along the way. So these are rule of thumbs, and you have to kind of know your own body, and that's why training is important, to see how you react to being out there for a long time in the cold. Thanks. That was a fun question. I enjoy that stuff. So. I'll remind you, even if you're not doing your gold, there is going to be a gold specific webinar in January. And there's, it's intended for gold, but if you're doing your silver and you're thinking of doing your gold one day, you can sign up for that. And there'll be a lot of tips that are applicable to Coureur des Bois situation. So there's nothing wrong with attending that as well.
I was pleased, Rial, to see a comment in the Q&A from someone who thinks this year's trail is better than the normal trail.
I will let everyone know on this call, and there's still 16 participants, that Mr. Chris Teron has a lot to do with designing the trail, and we owe him a lot. He does a lot of really excellent work in the background. I get involved peripherally, and I now know how much stuff Chris does in trail design, and he's a mapping guru, and he's an avid cross-country skier himself, and it's sad. I'm glad to know that you can be able to do a couple of sections this year. That's very exciting. So if you see Chris out there in a funny looking hat or whatever, please say hi to him and give him a thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, but that really applies, as Rial said at the beginning, to the entire board.
Yes.
The board members put in enormous work to make this a great experience for themselves and for the skiers, but we love it.
Yes. All right. I think I can draw it to a close. Thank you, everyone. You can now sign off.
And register.
And please register and tell all your friends to register, and heck, buy them Christmas gifts and register for them. My last story, because I have a million stories about the ski marathon. One year I got the gold camp, and I was a gentleman who was 73 years old, and he was doing his first gold at 73. And his kids had bought him a Christmas gift to do the bronze all together when he was like in his late 60s. And there he was years later doing his first gold at 73. He was a pretty tired puppy when he arrived at gold camp, but I was impressed by him. That's it. I'm going to stop the recording.